Lily never imagined that her life could change in one single afternoon. She had always known her mother was struggling, but she never thought poverty would lead to something so cruel. She was gathering small pieces of dry wood behind their tiny cabin when she heard horses approaching. The sound made her freeze because strangers rarely came this far into the valley, especially Comanche riders. Her heart started beating fast as she saw a young warrior on a strong brown horse stop near her home. He looked calm, powerful, and serious, with long black hair tied behind him and a spear across his saddle. Lily watched from the trees, confused and frightened, wondering why he had come inside the cabin. Her mother stood nervous and tired, her clothes torn, her hands shaking from days of hunger. She had been trying to keep their life together after Lily's father died. But things only got worse every week. The Comanche warrior, Tahoma, spoke in a low voice that Lily could barely hear. Her mother nodded slowly, wiping tears from her cheeks as she listened to his words. Finally, after a long silence, her mother stepped aside and pointed toward the woods where Lily was hiding. Lily did not understand at first, but then she saw the warrior's eyes follow the direction of her mother's hand. Her stomach twisted with fear as he gently dismounted his horse and walked toward her. Lily stepped back, shaking, not knowing whether she should run or stay still. Tahoma raised his hands in a calm way to show he meant no harm, but the fear did not leave her heart. When he reached her, he only said one sentence, spoken slowly so she could understand. "Your mother has given you to me." The words crashed into her like a storm. Lily felt her breath catch as the world around her blurred. She looked toward her mother, hoping this was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a nightmare she could wake from. But her mother stood there with her face hidden behind her hands, crying silently. Lily felt her knees weaken as she whispered, "Mama." "Why?" Her mother did not answer. Tahoma placed a gentle but firm hand on Lily's shoulder and guided her toward the cabin. Inside, Lily saw a single brown horse waiting outside, tied to a broken post near the door. Then she understood the truth with a pain that felt like her chest was tearing open. Her mother had traded her daughter for one horse. One horse to survive the winter, one horse in exchange for Lily's entire future. The betrayal burned her heart until she felt she could hardly breathe. Lily cried and begged, but her mother only whispered, "I had no choice." "Forgive me," but Lily could not forgive. Not yet, not today. Tahoma remained quiet, watching the pain between mother and daughter with eyes that held their own sadness. He did not smile, did not boast, did not show any pride in what had happened. He simply waited, patient and calm, as if he understood that Lily's world had just been shattered. When it was time to leave, Lily hugged herself tightly. Shaking from fear and grief, Tahoma helped her onto the horse, placing a blanket around her shoulders to keep her warm. Lily did not look back at her mother as they rode away. She felt if she looked, she might break completely. The land stretched wide and empty around them, wind brushing across the grass like a soft whisper. Lily felt small and powerless as the world she knew disappeared behind her. Tahoma said little during the journey, but he rode carefully, making sure she did not fall. Sometimes he glanced at her with an expression she could not read. It was not anger, not pride, not joy. It was something softer, something complicated, something wounded. Lily wondered if he also carried a past full of pain. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and red, Lily wiped her tears and tried to stay strong. She realized she had no choice but to survive now. Her mother had chosen a horse over her, but perhaps in this new world among strangers, she could find a different kind of strength. Tahoma finally spoke again as they reached a small ridge overlooking a wide Comanche camp. "This will be your home now," he said quietly. Lily looked at the camp of strangers, feeling fear, confusion, and heartbreak all at once. She did not know what waited for her there, but one thing was certain: her old life was gone, and the new one would challenge her in ways she could not yet imagine. The ride into the Comanche camp felt endless for Lily. Every hoofbeat on the dry earth sounded like a reminder that she no longer belonged to her own world. By the time Tahoma guided the horse through the entrance of the village, dozens of eyes were already turning toward them. Women carrying water stopped mid-step. Children paused their games. An old warrior stared with narrowed eyes. Whispers spread quickly as people noticed the frightened white girl sitting behind Tahoma. Holding tightly to the blanket around her shoulders, Lily felt her throat close. She had never been surrounded by so many strangers who looked at her with cold curiosity. Some faces showed confusion. Others showed annoyance. A few showed pity. But none showed welcome. She did not blame them. She knew she looked weak and out of place. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy from crying and wind, and her eyes red from heartbreak. Tahoma finally stopped near a round hut made of wooden poles and buffalo hides. "This is my lodge," he said quietly, helping her down from the horse. Lily's legs shook as her feet touched the ground. She felt like she had arrived on another planet. One woman approached them, tall and stern. With long braids and sharp dark eyes, her name was Saya. And she was Tahoma's older sister. She asked him something in Comanche. Her voice low but firm. Tahoma answered in the same language. And Lily recognized her name mixed in the words. Saya's expression softened for a moment before she turned to look at Lily directly. Saya lifted Lily's chin gently, studying her like someone examining a wounded bird. "You are scared," she said slowly in English. Her accent heavy but her voice calm. Lily nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Saya touched the blanket around her and then pointed inside the lodge. "You rest," she said. "You safe here." Lily wanted to believe her, but fear still held her heart tightly. Even so, she followed Saya inside the lodge, taking small, careful steps. The inside smelled of smoke, herbs, and warm hides. A small fire burned in the center, lighting the round space with a soft orange glow. Saya brought Lily a wooden bowl of warm stew and placed it in her hands. "Eat," she said softly. "You need strength." Lily ate slowly, not because she was still hungry from days of poor meals, but because her thoughts were heavy and tangled. Outside, Tahoma spoke with the elders, explaining why he had brought her. Some of them raised their voices, clearly unhappy. Lily could not understand their words, but she understood the tone. She wrapped her arms around her legs and tucked herself near the fire, trying to stay calm when Tahoma entered the lodge again. He looked tired but calm. He sat across from her, studying her like he was trying to understand who she was beneath all the fear. Lily refused to meet his eyes at first. She still felt a sting of anger toward him, even though she knew the real betrayal came from her mother. After a long silence, Tahoma spoke. "You stay here," he said. "No one harm you?" Lily nodded. Though her voice failed her, Tahoma then added something she did not expect. "You are not my prisoner," he said gently. "But my people do not trust outsiders easily." He paused, looking into the fire. "I do not trust easily either." Lily felt a strange pull in her chest. She had seen something wounded in him during their journey, and now she felt it even more clearly. But she also knew she carried her own pain, and trust was a mountain she was not ready to climb. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Every sound outside, the barking dogs, the distant drums, the whispers of wind, felt unfamiliar and frightening. She kept staring at the fire, trying to imagine what her life would become now. At one point, a group of children peeked inside the lodge, giggling softly as they stared at the new stranger. Saya shooed them away gently, but Lily heard their whispers. "The white girl, the one he brought, will she stay?" When dawn arrived, Lily stepped outside to find the early morning sky painted with soft pink light. Women were grinding corn, men were preparing horses, and children were running with sticks pretending they were warriors. Lily stood alone, unsure where to go or what to do. Saya approached and touched her shoulder lightly. "You helped today," she said. "Work makes heart steady." Lily followed her, learning how to carry water, prepare hides, and sort herbs. Many people watched her with curiosity, but Saya stayed close, guiding her patiently as the day went on. Lily noticed something. Not everyone despised her. Some women nodded at her effort, a few children smiled shyly, and even a couple of young warriors glanced her way with interest instead of suspicion. But she still felt like a fragile leaf in a storm, trying not to break. When evening came, Lily sat outside the lodge, holding the warm blanket tight around her. Tahoma approached quietly and stood beside her. You did well today, he said, his voice soft. Lily looked at him for the first time without fear. Only confusion and exhaustion. Why did you take me? She whispered. Tahoma looked toward the mountains, his face shadowed by the fading light. I had my reasons, he said. I will tell you. When the time is right, Lily wasn't sure whether to trust him. But in that moment, something faint and unfamiliar sparked between them. Not trust, not comfort, but a beginning. Lily woke up on her third morning in the Comanche camp with a heaviness she couldn't shake. Even though Saya had been kind and Tahoma had not hurt her, she still felt like a stranger walking through a world that wasn't meant for her. When she stepped outside the lodge, the early sun painted the sky in soft gold, and smoke from cooking fires drifted upward in thin lines. Children ran past her laughing, but adults still watched her with cautious eyes. She kept her head low, unsure of her place, unsure of herself. Saya handed her a basket of herbs to sort, guiding her with calm gestures. You learnin'? Saya said gently. Slow is fine. Lily nodded, grateful for the small piece of stability. But her thoughts kept drifting to Tahoma. He was quiet, distant, and full of secrets she could feel but not see. He treated her with unexpected gentleness, yet kept a wall around himself that felt impossible to climb. Later that morning, Lily heard raised voices outside the lodge. She peeked outside and saw Tahoma arguing with another young warrior named Akechida. Their words were sharp, fast, and filled with emotion Lily could not understand. Akechida pointed at Lily, his face twisted with frustration. Lily stepped back quickly, her heart racing. Was she the cause of trouble here too? Had she already become a burden in this new life? Saya placed a hand on Lily's arm, calming her. They worry, she explained gently. Not about you, but about Tahoma. Saya sighed, her eyes tired. He has been alone a long time. This confused Lily. Tahoma did not look lonely. He looked strong and steady, almost unbreakable. But Saya's voice held a truth Lily could not ignore that evening. While the sky darkened and people gathered around fires, Lily walked near the edge of the camp to breathe in the quiet. She found Tahoma sitting alone on a small hill, staring at the distant mountains. His silhouette was strong against the fading light, but his posture looked heavy. Lily hesitated, unsure if she should approach. But something inside her pushed her forward, step by careful step, when she got close. Tahoma didn't turn right away. He simply said, "You can sit." Lily lowered herself onto the grass beside him. Leaving a respectful distance between them, for a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the wind brushing through the tall grass and the distant call of a night bird. Finally, Lily gathered her courage. "You were angry earlier," she said softly. "Was it?" "Because of me?" Tahoma shook his head slowly, but the sadness in his eyes deepened. "No," he said. "Not because of you." His voice dropped lower. "Akechida thinks I am making the same mistake again." Lily's heartbeat rose. "Again," she whispered. "What mistake?" Tahoma finally looked at her. And for the first time, she saw vulnerability in his eyes. Not anger, not frustration, but grief. "My wife," he said quietly. "She died 2 winters ago," Lily's breath caught. She hadn't expected that, not from someone so strong, so guarded. Tahoma kept his gaze on the mountains as he continued. "Her name was Awinata," he said, each word slow and painful. "We grew up together." Lily listened without interrupting. Feeling his pain roll off him like smoke from a dying fire, "She was taken," Tahoma said, his jaw tightening. "By a raiding party from the north." Lily pressed a hand to her mouth. Imagining the terror of that moment, Tahoma's hands clenched on his knees. "I rode for days to find her," he continued. "But when I did, it was too late." His voice cracked, the first sign that he was not made of stone after all. Lily felt something warm and heavy settle in her chest. Earlier, she feared him, but now she saw the truth. He was a man carrying a wound deeper than any she had ever known, a wound that made him keep distance, a wound that made him afraid to trust, afraid to feel. "That is why my people worry," Tahoma said quietly. "They think bringing you here means I am trying to replace what I lost." Lily shook her head softly. "I don't want to replace anyone," she whispered. I don't even understand why I am here." Tahoma looked at her for a long moment, the firelight from the camp reflecting in his eyes like flickering stars. "You were here because you needed a home," he said simply, "and maybe I needed someone to remind me the world still has kindness." Lily's heart warmed and ached at the same time. She didn't know if she could fix someone like Tahoma, someone carved by pain and silence. But she understood now why he watched her with careful eyes, why he spoke softly, why he gave her space, why he carried sorrow like a shadow behind him. As they sat there under the darkening sky, Lily felt a shift inside her, a small, fragile connection forming between two broken hearts. Not love, not trust, not yet, but a beginning, a chance. A tiny spark of hope glowing in the quiet night when Tahoma finally stood. He offered his hand. "Come," he said gently. "The night is cold." Lily placed her hand in his, feeling warmth spread through her fingertips. And as they walked back toward the camp lights, she realized she was no longer just a stranger in a strange place. She was part of a story bigger than heartbreak, bigger than fear, a story still being written. One quiet moment at a time, the next morning began with a warning carried on the wind. Dark clouds gathered over the distant hills, rolling like heavy shadows across the sky. Lily stood outside the lodge, rubbing her arms as a cold breeze swept through the camp. People moved faster than usual, tightening ropes, securing hides, and preparing for the storm they knew was coming. She watched them with worry, unsure how she could help, or if she even should. Saya approached her with a bundle of wooden stakes and thick rope. "Storm strong," Saya said, her braid blowing in the wind. "We need every hand," Lily nodded quickly, grateful for the chance to do something useful. Even if most people still looked at her like she didn't belong, she wanted to prove she could be part of something. She followed Saya to the outer side of the lodge and held the stakes firmly as Saya hammered them into the ground. Thunder rumbled in the distance like an angry drum. Children were rushed indoors, while warriors secured horses and checked the edges of the camp. Lily struggled against the growing wind as she tightened the ropes around the frame of the lodge. Her fingers hurt from the cold, but she didn't stop. Every task was a battle. She was determined to win. As the storm grew closer, Tahoma approached them, his hair whipping in the wind. "Lily," he said firmly, "stay inside. The storm will be harsh." Lily shook her head. Clutching the rope she was tying, "I'm helping," she said, her voice shaking but determined. Tahoma looked at her with surprise, unused to someone refusing his direction, but Saya placed a hand on his arm. Giving him a knowing look. "She's strong," Saya said. "Let her learn." Tahoma stepped back, watching Lily work with a quiet intensity that made her heart beat faster. She didn't know if she was impressing him or worrying him, but she knew one thing. She didn't want to be the weak outsider anymore. She wanted to be someone who stood on her own feet, someone he didn't have to protect constantly. The wind hit harder as the storm reached the camp. Lily held a rope with all her strength, while Saya pulled another side of the hide covering. The cold rain began falling sharply, soaking their clothes instantly. The gusts of wind pushed against them like invisible hands trying to knock them down. A few warriors ran past them, shouting instructions, their voices nearly lost in the storm. Suddenly, the rope Lily held slipped from her grasp as a strong gust hit her. She stumbled backward, falling to her knees. The lodge covering flapped wildly. Threatening to tear away, Lily scrambled forward again, grabbing the rope with both hands. Her arms trembled, her hair stuck to her face. But she held tight. "Pull!" Saya shouted. "Don't let it go." Lily planted her feet into the wet ground and pulled with everything she had. The wind screamed around them, shaking the entire structure like a living creature. Then she felt another pair of hands grip the rope behind her. Tahoma, silent and steady, had stepped in without a word. Together, they pulled until the covering settled firmly against the frame. When it finally held, Lily collapsed back onto the wet earth. Breathless and exhausted, Tahoma crouched beside her. Rain dripping from his hair. "You fight the storm," he said softly, an unexpected warmth in his voice. Lily looked up at him, her chest rising and falling. "I don't want to be useless," she whispered. I want to belong," before Tahoma could answer. A loud crack echoed across the camp as another lodge struggled against the wind. Several women ran toward it, shouting for help without hesitation. Lily pushed herself up and followed them. Her legs were shaking, her clothes soaked. But she didn't slow down. The storm roared around them as she joined the women trying to secure the loosened poles. Rain stung her skin. Mud covered her hands. But she kept working. She didn't stop until the last rope was tied and the lodge stood firm again. By the time the storm weakened and the sky faded into a tired gray, Lily's entire body ached, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She stood among the Comanche women, breathing hard, her hair dripping and her clothes plastered to her skin. Saya smiled proudly, touching Lily's shoulder. "You did good," she said. "Very good." A few other women even nodded at her, their expressions no longer cold but respectful. When Lily finally walked back toward the lodge, Tahoma was waiting for her. His eyes held something new, something deep and unreadable. "You worked harder than many warriors," he said quietly. "My people see it." Lily looked down at her muddy hands, unsure what to say. "Just wanted to help," she murmured. Tahoma shook his head gently. "No," he said. "You wanted to stand?" He stepped a little closer, his voice lower. "And you did for the first time since she arrived." Lily felt something warm and strong rise inside her, a feeling she had almost forgotten: pride, belonging, for one moment. Surrounded by wet earth and fading storm clouds, she felt like she was no longer just the girl who had been traded for a horse. She was someone rebuilding her life. Step by trembling step, the storm passed. But the memory of it stayed in Lily's muscles for days. Every movement reminded her of how hard she had fought alongside the Comanche women. Her arms ached, her legs trembled at times. But inside her chest, something new had taken root. A strength she didn't know she had for the first time since arriving. The people didn't stare at her with suspicion in their eyes. Some nodded at her when she walked by, others spoke soft greetings. Even the children who once whispered behind her now smiled openly. One morning, while the sun rose gently over the plains, Lily helped Saya grind herbs outside the lodge. She found comfort in the steady rhythm of the work. It made her feel like she belonged to something, even if just a little. Suddenly, a cry broke through the quiet air, sharp and panicked. A woman ran through the camp, carrying a small boy in her arms. The child burning with fever, his head hung limp, his eyes half closed. His breath shallow like he was slipping away. Saya rushed toward them, and Lily followed instinctively. The mother was crying, her voice trembling as she begged for help. Saya checked the boy's forehead, then shook her head with worry. "He's sick long time," Saya murmured. "He needs strong medicine." The tribe's healer was away hunting herbs in the hills and wouldn't return until night. The mother held her son tightly. Sobbing as the fever rose higher, Lily stepped closer. Trying to calm the racing fear in her chest, her hands shook. But she remembered something, a simple mixture her own mother used long ago when Lily was very young. It wasn't powerful medicine, but it eased fever. She whispered softly, "Saya, I know something that might help." Saya turned with surprise, unsure if she should trust Lily with a sick child, but the mother pleaded with shaking eyes. Desperate for anything that could save her son, Lily quickly gathered cool water. Small, crushed leaves, and a cloth, she worked carefully, explaining every step to Saya as she wrapped the child's head and arms with the herbal cloths. The boy whimpered weakly, but soon his breathing slowed just a little. His fever didn't break, but it stopped climbing. Saya touched Lily's shoulder, her eyes wide with relief. "You help him," she whispered. "You truly help." A few women who once doubted Lily now watched her with different eyes, not eyes of fear or cold judgment, but eyes of respect, they murmured to one another, recognizing that the girl they had once treated like an outsider had saved a child's life, or at least held it safe until the healer returned. Hours passed, and the fever began to ease. The mother hugged Lily tightly, tears running down her face. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank you." Lily felt warmth rise through her chest. a feeling she hadn't known since before her father died. Someone was grateful for her. Someone needed her. She wasn't useless. Not here, not anymore. When the sun lowered behind the distant hills and the healer finally returned, he examined the boy and nodded in approval. He looked at Lily with genuine respect. "You did right," he said in slow English. "Good heart, good hands." Lily felt her cheeks warm, and Saya squeezed her hand proudly later that evening. After the campfires were lit and the night air cooled the village, Lily sat quietly near the lodge. She watched the stars appear one by one, like tiny lanterns glowing above the plains. She didn't notice Tahoma approaching until he stood beside her. His presence felt different tonight, less distant. More open, he lowered himself to sit next to her, the firelight reflecting in his eyes like warm embers. "I heard what you did," he said gently. "The boy." His mother cried with thanks. Lily looked down, shy and unsure how to respond. "I only did what I could," she whispered. "Anyone would." Tahoma shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "not anyone." His voice softened even more. "You gave your hands, your time, your heart." Lily felt something flutter inside her chest, a warmth she didn't want to name yet. Tahoma continued speaking, his tone low and honest. "My people respect strength," he said, "but they respect kindness even more." He looked directly at her, his eyes deep with meaning, "and today you earned that respect." Lily swallowed hard, emotions swirling in her chest like a rising tide. "I just want to help," she murmured. "I want to be..." "Useful you are," Tahoma replied, his voice steady. "More than you know." Silence fell between them, but it wasn't the cold silence from her first days. It was a gentle silence, warm and safe, a silence with possibility. Tahoma finally stood and offered his hand to her. "Come," he said softly. "Eat with me by the fire." Lily placed her hand in his. Feeling the familiar warmth spread through her fingers for the first time, she did not feel like she walked behind him or beside him as a burden. She felt like she walked next to him as someone seen, respected, maybe even trusted. And as the night wrapped around the camp with its soft breeze and glowing fires, Lily realized this was the first true step toward something new, a fragile connection, a growing trust, and perhaps the beginning of a bond she never expected. The days after Lily helped the sick child were calmer. People greeted her with softer eyes, and the fear that once hung around her like a shadow began to fade. She worked with the women, learned from Saya, and sometimes joined the children in sorting berries or carrying water. Even the warriors nodded at her now, their expressions no longer sharp and doubtful. For the first time, Lily felt like she could breathe without fear tightening her chest. But peace in the plains never lasted long. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned orange and purple, Lily walked toward the river to wash a basket. The air was quiet, too quiet. No laughter from the children, no songs from the women, no whistles of birds from the trees. Even the water seemed slower, as if the land itself was waiting for something. Lily knelt by the riverbank and dipped the basket into the cool water as she worked. She heard strange voices in the distance, voices she had never heard before, rough, sharp, angry. She froze, her breath caught in her throat carefully. She moved behind a thick bush and listened. The voices were coming from the ridge above the river. She could hear two men speaking, their words hurried and tense. And though she didn't understand much, she caught enough to make her heart pound. "They're weak from the storm," one man said. "Tonight is the perfect time," another answered. Lily covered her mouth with both hands, terror crawling up her spine. Someone was planning an attack on the Comanche camp. She didn't know who they were or where they came from, but she knew danger when she heard it. The men moved farther along the ridge and disappeared behind the rocks. Lily knew she had only one choice. She had to warn the camp. Her legs trembled as she ran, her heart beat loud in her ears. Her breath came in sharp gasps, but she didn't slow down. She sprinted across the open land, tripping on rocks, stumbling over roots. Fear pushed her faster than she ever thought she could move when she reached the camp. People were starting to gather near the fires for the evening meal. Lily ran straight toward Tahoma, who stood speaking with a Kachita near the center of the camp. Tahoma saw her panic before she even spoke. His expression tightened instantly. "Lily," he said. "What happened?" She tried to speak, but her words came out in broken breaths. "There are men. On the ridge? They want to attack tonight." The camp erupted into a quiet, electric tension. The warriors exchanged sharp looks and immediately spread out to take positions. Saya grabbed Lily's shoulders, her face filled with both fear and disbelief. "You heard this?" she asked. "You sure?" Lily nodded quickly. "I heard them. They said the storm made the camp weak." Saya turned to Tahoma. Her eyes urgent. "She tells truth," she said. "Lily not lie." Tahoma didn't hesitate. He lifted his bow and gave a sharp command. Warriors mounted their horses. Others grabbed spears and checked the camp perimeter. The quiet night turned into a swift storm of preparation. Children were taken inside the lodges. Women gathered weapons and hid behind the strong shelters. But Tahoma did something unexpected. He took Lily's hand. "You stay close," he said firmly, "if danger comes. I protect you." His hand was warm, steady, and strong. But Lily shook her head, her voice trembling but determined. "No, I want to help." Tahoma hesitated, torn between fear for her safety and respect for the strength she had shown in the storm. Finally, he nodded slowly. "You stay with Saya," he said. "Help the women hold the lodges." "Keep the children calm," Lily agreed, though her heart was racing. She followed Saya into the largest lodge where families gathered. Eyes wide with fear outside, the warriors moved silently in the darkness. Waiting for the attack, moments stretched into long minutes. The wind whistled through the camp, carrying the scent of dust and danger. Lily held a small knife Saya had given her. Though her hands trembled, her breath was tight. Her stomach knotted with fear for the people who had finally accepted her. Fear for Tahoma. Fear for everyone who had shown her kindness. Suddenly, a loud shout broke the silence from the ridge above the camp. Arrows flew through the night sky, and the warriors responded instantly. The attack had begun. Screams echoed through the darkness as horses charged and weapons clashed. Lily held the children close, guiding them deeper inside. But she couldn't stop her eyes from darting to the doorway, searching for Tahoma among the shadows. Outside, the warriors fought fiercely. Tahoma moved like a storm himself. Fast and precise, a Kachita fought near him, protecting the outer edge of the camp. Lily's heart pounded with every shout, every clash, every breath. The battle didn't last long. The attackers, surprised by the tribe's quick readiness, retreated into the darkness. The warriors chased them just long enough to make sure they wouldn't return. Then silence fell again, heavy and exhausted. Lily rushed out of the lodge the moment it was safe. The camp was scattered with broken arrows, dust, and tired warriors. She ran toward Tahoma, her voice breaking. "Are you hurt?" Tahoma turned to her. His chest rising and falling with heavy breaths, he reached for her hand. His eyes softening. "I am safe," he said. "Because you warned us." Lily felt warmth spread through her like sunrise. For the first time, she realized something powerful. She wasn't just living in the camp, she was protecting it. She was part of it. And as Tahoma kept his hand around hers, she felt the true beginning of something deeper: respect, connection, and a trust stronger than fear. Stronger than past wounds, stronger than anything she had known before. The attack changed everything for Lily from that night onward. No one looked at her like a stranger anymore. When she walked through the village, people nodded with gratitude. Some offered her food, some offered smiles, and children even ran to her with excitement. They all knew the truth: her warning saved their camp. But for Lily, the biggest change was the way Tahoma looked at her now. Not with guarded distance, not with quiet grief, but with warmth, respect, and something deeper she wasn't ready to name yet. Still, life in the camp didn't slow down. The warriors repaired the broken fences. The women fixed the damaged lodges. Lily worked right beside them, learning, helping, and growing stronger every day. She felt her heart settling into this new place, into this new life that felt nothing like the one she had left behind. But just when she thought she had finally found peace, the past came back like a cold wind. It happened early in the morning. Lily was helping Saya grind dried herbs when a distant figure appeared on the horizon. A single rider traveling fast at first, Lily didn't think anything of it. But as the rider got closer, the shape became clearer. It was a woman dressed in worn clothes. Hair messy, eyes desperate, Lily's breath caught in her chest. She knew that face. She knew that broken posture. It was her mother. For a moment, the world around Lily went silent. The grinding stone slipped from her fingers and fell to the ground. Saya looked at her with concern. "Lily," she whispered. "You know her?" Lily could barely nod. Her heart beat painfully as her mother rode straight into the camp. Warriors stepped forward, cautious and ready. But the woman raised her hands. Shaking with fear, "Please," she cried. "I only want my daughter." Lily's legs felt weak as she stepped forward. Her mother slid off the horse and ran toward her. Tears streaming down her dusty face. "Oh, Lily," she sobbed, "my baby. I came for you." But Lily didn't move. She stood frozen, her emotions twisting painfully inside her chest. Part of her wanted to run into her mother's arms. But a deeper part remembered the truth her mother had traded her for a single horse. "Why are you here?" Lily asked softly. Her voice trembling, her mother reached for her hands. But Lily stepped back. "I made a mistake," her mother cried. "I was terrified. I was starving. I didn't know what else to do." Lily looked away, tears burning in her eyes. "You sold me," she whispered. "You didn't even try to find another way." The village had grown quiet. People watched from a distance, unsure whether to approach or stay still. Tahoma stood near the edge of the crowd, his expression calm but protective. He didn't interfere yet. This was Lily's moment. Her moment to face the pain she had been carrying since the day she was taken away. Her mother sobbed harder, falling to her knees in the dirt. "I have nothing," she cried. "Nothing except you. I came to take you back. Please come home, home." The word stabbed Lily's heart. Home was once a warm place filled with laughter and her father's stories. But after he died, everything had fallen apart. Her mother had changed, become bitter, desperate, and afraid. And the day she traded Lily had broken something that would never fully heal. Lily wiped her tears and shook her head slowly. "I can't go with you," she said, her voice soft but steady. Her mother's face crumpled in shock. "What do you mean you can't?" she cried. "I'm your mother," Lily swallowed hard, fighting the ache in her chest. "I'm safe here," she said. "I'm cared for. Respected. I'm not the girl you threw away anymore." Her mother tried to speak again. But Lily lifted a hand gently. "I forgive you," she whispered. "But I can't go back." The woman sobbed helplessly, her shoulders shaking as she pressed her hands against her face. Lily felt tears run down her cheeks too. A part of her would always love her mother, but that love was no longer stronger than the pain, and it was no longer stronger than the life she had built here. Tahoma finally stepped forward, his presence calm and strong. He stood beside Lily, not touching her, but close enough for her to feel supported. Her mother looked up at him with fear. "Please," she begged him. "Let her come home." Tahoma shook his head slowly. "She chooses her path," he said gently. "Not me." "Not you," Lily took a deep breath. She stepped toward her mother and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Go," she said softly. "Find your own strength." "The way I found mine," her mother cried again. But she knew Lily's mind was set. After a long moment, she stood, climbed back onto the horse, and turned away. Her figure grew smaller and smaller until she disappeared over the horizon. Lily stood silently, staring at the empty ridge. Her chest hurt, but she also felt lighter, like releasing a heavy stone she had been carrying for too long. Tahoma finally moved closer, his voice low. "You were brave," he said, "braver than many warriors." Lily looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. "I didn't want to hurt her," she whispered. "You didn't," Tahoma replied. "You told the truth. And you chose your future." Lily felt the weight of his words settle deep in her heart. And for the first time, she knew she truly belonged here. Not because she was taken, not because she was accepted, but because she had chosen this life herself, chosen the people who stood by her, chosen the man who stood beside her. What she didn't know was that this choice would open the door to something even stronger, bond deeper than fear, deeper than loss, deeper than anything she had ever imagined. The day Lily's mother left, the camp returned to its normal rhythm. But inside Lily's heart, nothing felt normal for a long time. She walked silently beside Saya as they prepared food, gathered herbs, and cleaned the lodge. Her hands worked automatically, but her thoughts wandered back to the moment she had watched her mother disappear across the plains. An ache lingered deep inside her chest, a mix of sadness, relief, and something she couldn't name. Tahoma gave her space. He watched her from a distance, his eyes soft but unreadable. He didn't push her to talk, didn't ask questions, didn't try to fix the hurt. He simply stayed near enough to catch her, if she fell. And for Lily, that quiet presence meant more than any comforting word. When the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the land gold, Lily walked toward the river. She needed air. She needed silence. She needed space to breathe. She sat on a large, smooth stone near the water's edge and stared at the ripples dancing across the surface. The sky shifted from orange to pink to deep purple. Lily wrapped her arms around herself as memories swirled in her mind. She heard footsteps behind her, soft and familiar. Tahoma didn't speak right away. He sat beside her, leaving just enough space for her to choose if she wanted to close it. For a long moment, neither of them moved. They simply watched the river flow, the world quiet except for the gentle sound of water. Finally, Tahoma spoke. "You carry many wounds," he said softly. "Some given by others. Some born inside your own heart." Lily lowered her gaze, her eyes filling with tears she had tried so hard to hold back. "I didn't want to send her away," she whispered, "but I couldn't go back." "Not after everything." Tahoma nodded slowly. "You chose your life," he said, "and that choice takes great courage." Lily wiped her cheeks. Embarrassed by her tears, "I feel guilty," she murmured. "Like I abandoned her." Tahoma shook his head gently. "You did not abandon her," he said. "She abandoned you first." His voice held no anger, only truth, a truth Lily needed, but had been too afraid to speak. The wind picked up softly, tugging at Lily's hair. Tahoma turned to her, his expression calm and open. "You have strength you do not see," he said. "The storm showed it. The sick child showed it. The danger from outsiders showed it. And today showed it most of all." Lily looked at him, surprised by his words. "Strength," she whispered. "I always felt weak." "No," Tahoma said, his voice low and steady. "You are not weak. You are a survivor." Silence settled between them again, but it was warm this time. The kind of silence that wrapped gently around both of them like a blanket. Lily felt her heartbeat slow, her breathing steady. She felt safe, truly safe, next to him. Tahoma's eyes drifted toward the sky, where the first stars appeared like tiny sparks. "I feared letting anyone close," he admitted quietly, after a winita. "I closed my heart." Lily listened closely, her chest tightening for him. "But you," he continued, "you changed something in me." Lily felt her breath catch. "What did I change?" she asked softly. Tahoma met her eyes, the silence stretching between them with meaning. "You reminded me that trust can grow again," he said, slowly, like a new fire. Lily felt warmth bloom inside her chest, spreading through her limbs like soft light. She had never wanted to replace Owanita, never wanted to take a place that wasn't hers. But hearing Tahoma speak those words felt like a fragile bridge forming between them, a bridge made not of fear or obligation, but of mutual understanding. Slowly, carefully, Tahoma reached for her hand. He didn't pull her close, didn't rush her. He simply let their fingers touch. Lily's heart fluttered, but she didn't move away. Instead, she let her hand rest in his. Feeling the warmth of his skin, the connection felt soft but powerful. Like the beginning of a promise they hadn't spoken out loud yet. "You belong here, Lily," Tahoma said, "not because you were brought, but because you have chosen this place." Lily looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "And you?" she asked softly. "Have you chosen me?" Tahoma inhaled deeply, his eyes holding hers. "Yes," he said simply, "I choose you. It's not as a replacement, not as a duty. but as someone I trust with my heart." Lily felt tears gather again, but this time they were warm, gentle, full of hope. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel traded, discarded, or unwanted. She felt valued, seen, and chosen. She squeezed Toma's hand softly. "I choose you too," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. As the night settled around them and the stars shone brighter, Lily leaned her head gently against his shoulder, didn't move, just breathed slowly, letting the moment settle like soft earth. They sat together in quiet peace, two broken hearts learning how to beat again, in that stillness, in that softness. A new beginning formed between them, a bond built not from fear, not from pain, not from the past, but from trust, a trust stronger than the storm, stronger than the wounds they carried, a trust that would guide them into a future neither of them had ever dared to imagine. And so, the girl who was once sold for a single horse became the woman who healed a warrior's heart, and the warrior who once closed his soul learned to trust again. Together, they built a life not born from fear, but from hope. And from that hope, a new story began.